I really appreciate it, and I want to thank you at the outset, Brockton Rotary, for inviting me here today. It's great, and I want to thank you, for what you all do, because it's so important to have our community groups working in our community now more than ever. And although people may not always say thank you to you, I understand what it's like to go out there and to work as best as you can to try to help people that need help, that need a hand up versus a hand out. And they certainly rely on groups and agencies like yourself. So for what you do in our community, I thank you. And I'm glad to hear Rockland's here, Hanson's here. Attleboro is not Plymouth County, but welcome. I was talking earlier to her. But it's so great to be here because my name's Tim Cruz. I am the Plymouth County DA. And I grew up in West Bridgewater. I went to West Bridgewater Public High School. That's where I went to school. And that's where I really learned, what my values were about. And I was really lucky back in 1984, 1985, when the district attorney at that time gave me my first real job. I drove a steel truck for Turner Steel in West Bridgewater. I loaded poultry trucks at Cape Breed Foods in West Bridgewater on night graveyard shift. But my first real job was an assistant DA here in Plymouth County. And Bill O'Malley gave me that opportunity, and Bill passed away a number of years ago, but he was a really good man and gave me that first break. And that's things that I never forget as we go forward in our office and making sure we always have internships and we help the next step of a lawyer as they come up. Because the challenges that we face are really different now. It's said in that the biography that Tina read, which was written a long time ago, because the job of the prosecutor has changed so much. When I go out and talk, I'll ask people, do you know what the DA does? And I'll stop, I'll just look, everybody's I get that vague look, that you're all giving me right now. And I'll say, do you watch Law and Order? And everybody say, CSI. I say, yeah, that's television. That's crime to conviction to 60 minutes. That's TV. That's not what I do. Our job now here in Plymouth County, where our main office is located, 166 Main Street. We've been there for the last 7 or 8 years. And we were at 32 Belmont Street for probably 40 years prior to that. That's where I cut my teeth back then, a long time back. And working with, our local police, our state, our federal, our local. Peter Crone, he was a Brockton police officer many years ago when I was starting out, and going around and like Lou Victor and all the defense attorneys that were here. And I was a defense attorney for probably 10 years myself. Because what you find out in the DA's office, you have a lot of young lawyers who are very eager to learn, and they do learn, and they have that opportunity. But after 3 or 4 years, they need to make some money too. And in that world, they don't make a lot of money, so most people will leave. And that's what I did. I left after 4 years, after trying hundreds of cases, making sure that I could do the job here as a prosecutor here in Plymouth County. And then I was out in the real world. I had an office here in Brockton. I was representing individuals charged with criminal cases. I was doing personal injury cases. I was doing probate cases. I did that for 12 years. And then I became the DA in 2001. And as we stand here now and you look at cases that pop up, even older cases, cases that people are resolving now, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years after the event. We still, to this day, look at cold cases here in our county. We always have a police officer from the respective town. We have a state trooper who works for our office, assigned to it, to review them, a fresh set of eyes every now and then, and to see whether or not the changes in the forensic world have allowed us to go into that world back then. And when you look at homicide photos from like 1975 or 1980, and you look and you see cigarette butts, you see broken glass with blood on it, and you go, I wish somebody had picked that stuff up. But nobody knew. Usually if you see me somewhere, something bad's happened. And that's fine because people I think they want to see somebody at these scenes. I go in the middle of the night. When I get a call in the middle of the night and there is something terrible that's happened, I don't ask any questions except, where is it? Give me the address so I can GPS it. And I'll usually be there. And I'll deal with the media, and I'll work with the police. Every homicide in our county, by statute, and every other DA in Massachusetts, by our statute, is controlled by the district attorney and the medical examiner. So we work with the local police, but the troopers who work for our office, will work with the local police in trying to come to a result. Because when you try to do that, and you look at what's out there when you show up, it's not like it cut and dry, like on television. You walk in there, what do you do? How do you preserve the scene? How do you make sure you get people's photos? How do you get the videotapes? How do you scan the area, start knocking on doors, making sure you get the old-time police officer stuff with the current stuff? And it's truly amazing. You should know that a lot of people every day are working really hard to make sure we get to a just result. Nobody wants the wrong person arrested. Nobody wants it more than I. If I arrest the wrong person and prosecute the wrong person and convict the wrong person, that means the right person's out here. So we have a responsibility to the people in our community to understand what it is what we do. People don't, sometimes when I talk about, what it is we do, people ask about, the powers of the DA. They think the DA is all powerful. Remember, the DA doesn't make all the decisions. When we go to court every time, there's a defense attorney, there's a judge. The judge will make the call. If somebody's arrested on a serious case and we have what's known as a bail argument, in other words, should there be an amount of money that's put up for that person to show up again in the future? We will make our pitch based upon somebody's record. We'll make our pitch based upon somebody's history, somebody's, what the offense is, their ties to the community. The defense attorney will say the things that he or she believes he should say to make sure that person's going to come back. You don't need to hold them on bail. But who makes the call? It's the judge. It's not us. And so therefore, we need to make sure that people understand that. That we live in a world now really of second chances, because as you go out and about and you're dealing with, kids, we've always done diversion programs for kids who get in trouble. When you're young and irresponsible, you're young and irresponsible. So should you ruin somebody's life because they did something stupid when they're 16 years old, 15 years old, something we all probably did? Should you ruin somebody's life if they get arrested for drinking a beer at Bridgewater State University? Or do you put them in a diversion program whereby they can learn a little bit, they go through the system, they don't get arraigned, they don't get what's known as a CORI, a criminal offender record information, they don't get any of that stuff. They stay out of the system. We've been doing it for kids, thousands of kids, for years. The vast majority of the kids that get involved in the criminal justice system, we never see them again. They've learned their lesson, they've moved on, and that's a positive thing. But notwithstanding that, we have drug courts, we have veterans courts, we have mental health courts, trying to help people. I'm a firm believer in helping the people that you can help, but at the same time, making sure we hold people accountable for their actions. So as you look at the big picture now, when I was a young ADA back in the 80s, we would get a police report, a file. There'd be a police report. That's it. You didn't know anything about the people. Now we know from the things that we do. People will continue to talk about criminal justice reform. If you want true criminal justice reform, you need to keep kids out of the system. We have to help our kids in our community, the kids who are high at risk, the kids who have the challenges every single day. We've seen it pre-COVID. We were dealing, here in the city of Brockton, Brockton should be proud. 20 years ago, we started doing a program, kids who witnessed violence in their lives. And it happened here in the city of Brockton. There was a terrible event where some drug dealers went to rip off another drug dealer. Problem was they went to a 3-family home. The drug dealers were on the 3rd floor. They kicked in the door of the 2nd floor. They figured out relatively quickly, we're in the wrong apartment, and they took off. Police show up, they're gone, and the next day, where do those kids go? They go to school, right? And when you're 12 and you're 8 and you're 10, you think everybody knows your business. And you go to school the next day, and nobody says anything to you. Nobody knows. So what do you think? You think they don't care. So these kids have been traumatized, and they've been desensitized, and they're working into that world. In this one case, what happened at that point was that this kid told his friends what happened. Because these men broke into our place last night. They were looking for drugs. Of course, he tells a friend, who tells another friend, who tells another friend. By the time it works its way around, it's that kid's got a gun in his locker. So now the police are called. The police show up, and that's how we found out about this young man. Helping those kids is important. We have a children's advocacy center here in Plymouth County. It's over on Pleasant Street in Brockton right now. You realize last year in our county alone, there were more than 1,000 kids who were physically or sexually abused? And do you understand that, as we trying to help those kids and we're trying to put our cases together, most of those cases don't get prosecuted because the kids aren't able to go forward. They're babies. So how do you help those kids who are victims today from being tomorrow's perpetrators? You get them services now. And so we've been doing that for years here in our county, and it's something I'm really proud of, that we've been able to help those kids and keep them out of the system, because that's what's really important. On the back end, we work with Sheriff McDonald and try and do reentry programs, because the vast majority of people who are doing time right now are coming back. A lot of these guys don't have any education. They have anger management issues. They have drug issues. How can you help them get up? In the next 2 weeks, I think, April 24th, from 4 to 7 at Massasoit, we're doing a CORI-friendly job fair. Myself, Sheriff McDonald, Mayor Sullivan. We've been doing it for years. We usually do it at the War Memorial over in West Elm, across from the old courthouse. But this time we'll be doing it over there, and real employers are coming there. It's a CORI-friendly job fair. If you have a criminal record, that's not going to stop these men from hiring you. They know what they have going in. Getting them good jobs, keeping them out of the system is really important. You know, we've been dealing with the opioid crisis. You know, 2013, 2014, we've been dealing with, we saw that our fatal opioid overdoses doubled in 1 year. 1 year. Every unattended death that occurs in Plymouth County is attended to by the state police who work for me to make sure that there's not a suspicious death. So when there is a death in a home, there is somebody, even just a senior who passes away, the local police, if they will show up, they'll call the state police, they'll come in 99 times out of 100, it's nothing. Somebody passed away, they were old, they were sick, whatever it may be. But every now and then there's something suspicious. And you have to look into it, and you have to investigate it, and we have to make sure that nothing did happen. And we're also therefore showing up, and we have the true numbers regarding the fatal opioid overdoses. It is important to understand that there are people that need help, and we need to help them. But there are also people who are selling this poison who need to be held accountable, and we need to make sure we put them where they belong. They don't care about you, they don't care about your kids, they don't care about anybody. They're out there to make money. And as we went from, you know, heroin, which has been around forever. When I was a young prosecutor in the 80s, you know, the street level purity of heroin was probably 20%, 15, 20%. Because what dealers would do, they would take an amount of heroin, they would step on it, they would put inositol, vitamin B, make more from less. But it was less powerful. So now, you look at heroin, it's no longer, you know, 20%. Now it's 85, 90%. And you're seeing other drugs right now that are being mixed into those drugs also. Cocaine, marijuana. Kids all think marijuana is organic, it's good for you. Nicotine's terrible, that's what they've been taught, but marijuana is not bad. We have cases now of kids who are smoking marijuana, but it's been laced with fentanyl. I was a big opponent of marijuana being legalized because I didn't think we were ready. 4 years later, 4 years, 5 years later, whatever it is, I know now I was right. We were not ready for it, and we still aren't ready for it. Our laws haven't caught up with it, and it makes it a challenge. So now when you're dealing with kids out there who may be going to a graduation party, right? It's graduation time. And some kid may be smoking a joint. What's the big deal? You don't know what's in it. So now I find myself the big opponent of the legalization of marijuana, saying if you're going to smoke marijuana, go to the dispensary and get it there. It's the only stuff you can rely on that's being actual marijuana and not tainted on. One of the other drugs that's out there right now that's being mixed into fentanyl is xylazine. Xylazine is a non-opiate. And it is referred to as tranq because it is a animal tranquilizer. Much like carfentanil is an elephant tranquilizer. We have synthetic opiates that are in our community, and they are killing people. And so every day we continue to work with that, trying to make sure we can help the people that we can help and hold the dealers accountable. Other crimes that are going on right now that you probably hear about are human trafficking issues. When I leave here, I'm going back to our office. We're dealing with CSEC, commercial sexual exploitation of children, which goes on everywhere because of the internet. So we go out, we deal with schools, we do cyber sense, trying to teach our kids how to be safe on the phone. We have our summer DARE camp coming up, which we haven't had for 3 years because of COVID. We're going to have it at Whitman-Hanson High School, like we always do. There'll be 600 kids. There'll be 25 communities out of our 27. We'll have police officers there. It is organized chaos at its best. And you know what? These kids get there, they learn something, they're on teams, and they are helped. And a lot of these kids, it's the only summer camp they're getting. It's all free. All the money that we get, like the stuff in your program today, you see all these things in there, file lives, pamphlets, all that stuff. That's all stuff that, you know, we pay for with the money that we take from drug dealers. We are allowed to go after money that the proceeds from the drug distribution. If a drug dealer is making money, the best way to hurt him, other than putting him in jail, is taking his or her money. And so if you can prove that that's where the money's come from, you take it, and I'm allowed to put it back in the community every single year. We give money all throughout our community. If you know, and if you go online on PlymouthDA.com, if you know a nonprofit or something, we give out mini grants. If you can apply for one, if you fit within the parameters of what we do with the drug forfeited money, we'll give you a check. That's what we do every day, trying to make sure that we can do the very best that we can with all the issues and things that are going out there. I think I've gone too long, but I will say, once again, I'll say thank you. And people will often say to me, you know, why do you do this job? You know, I've been doing it now for 22 years as DA. I've been on call for 22 years. It is a challenge, but it's also a job that you're able to make a difference in people's lives. And when I'm asked, I often tell a story. I was at an event in Plymouth, and I parked my car. I was going to hit one place in Plymouth, and I had to go somewhere else. I forget where it was. And I park my car down by the waterfront, and I run to this building. I go in, I see people I got to see, and now it's time for me to leave. I walk out the door. It's pouring. I mean, pouring rain. It's not just spitting. So I got to stay under the canopy out in front of the restaurant. A young woman, young to me anyways, she's probably 35-ish, and she comes up to me and she goes, "You're Cruz, right?" Now, I never know where that's going. That can be good, that can be bad, I never know. And I said, "Yeah, I'm Cruz." And then she asked me the other question that I never know the answer to is, "Do you remember me?" And I'm looking at her and I'm like, I'm sorry. I usually can fudge my way out of it if I'm with a setting with other people, but it was just her and me. And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't." And she goes, "Well, I'm not surprised. The last time we talked, I was 6 years old." And when she said that to me, I knew who she was. And she said to me, her and another little girl were the victims in that case. And she said, when I was a little girl, we didn't really understand the process. She goes, all we knew is that we were going to court when you guys were breaking us in to show us, to take us into the courtroom in the afternoon when court was not in session anymore before the trial. And you'd sit down with these kids and say, "Listen, if I told you my shirt was white, am I telling the truth or a lie? If I told you my shirt was blue, am I telling the truth or a lie?" To show that they can tell the difference and how important it is to tell the truth. She said, "You people were so nice to us back then. I just want to say thank you to you because I couldn't say it back then." That's why you do this job. You do this job because you make a difference in your community every single day. I've watched our numbers go up. I've watched our numbers go down. I've watched our homicides go up. I've watched our shootings go up. I've watched them go down. And every day is a challenge. You can never put a laurel on your head and say, "Victory, we've beaten crime." You're never going to be there because that weekend something bad can happen. So all we do is get up every day and persevere. The lawyers in our county, we have 60 assistant DAs. We have roughly 20,000 criminal cases a year. We have 4 district courts. We have 2 superior courts. We handle probably 500 or 600 cases in superior court. We're trying murder cases. We're trying shoplifting cases. We're trying to make sure we can get to the end result to help the people that we can help. And that's really what it is. So my job is to help people in our community. I just appreciate the opportunity to continue to be in this job after all these many years. I thank you for what you do because I've been able to see and I think fully appreciate what the different agencies and nonprofits do. It makes a huge difference. You may not think it does, but someday, somewhere, somebody's going to come up to you also and say to you, "Thank you," and you're not going to know who they are. So thanks for listening to me. I appreciate it.